So with the 2023 season officially finished and the postseason bracket officially locked in place, with postseason even starting as soon as tomorrow, I wanted to give you my predictions of what will happen in the playoffs. I'll try to predict who I think will win, in how many games, and who will be the MVP for that team. So it's three stuff, but let's get into it. We're going to start in the NL with the number 6 spot seed Arizona Diamondbacks facing off against the number 3 seed Milwaukee Brewer. This is a very interesting series, and I think that if it would have been a 5-game series, I think it would have more favored Arizona, because I think that you would have had to face different pitching. But for me, Milwaukee, I think they have one of the best, if not the best, 1-2-3 punch in baseball with Corbin Burnes, Freddie Peralta, and Brandon Woodruff. So I think that this favors the Brewers immensely. I do think that Christian Yelich is going to be a beast in the playoffs. So yeah, quick. I do think, though, that Arizona will win one of the 2 games. I do think Zach Gallen's a stud. Merrill Kelly's a stud. It's just that game 3, if they get there, it's going to be tough. You don't really have anybody after that, but Corbin Carroll could be an X factor. Ketel Marte, Lourdes Gurriel, Gabriel Moreno. It's such a very good team. Christian Walker, it's a very good team. So I do think it's going to go to 3 games, but I do think Milwaukee picks it out, wins it, with the MVP of that series being Christian Yelich, because he can run, he can play good defense, and he can hit. So I think he will be the MVP of that series. Now moving on to the Phillies versus the Marlins. Phillies are the 4 seed, Marlins are the 5th seed. It's a very interesting series too. I think that Marlins are a good young team, good pitching. Jesus Luzardo, Braxton Garrett, Yuri Perez. I don't know if he's going to be on the roster. I think he should be, but I don't know. Johnny Guedo's still there. Sandy Alcantara, depending on how good he is. I don't even know if he's going to be back in time, though, because I think he is injured right now, but we'll see. I'm not sure. But then Philadelphia, that's a team that, they have a postseason team, and they have the experience. They got Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, who's been on fire, Nicholas Castellanos, Brandon Marsh, Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, JT Realmuto. Then you go to the pitching. You got Aaron Nola, you got Zach Wheeler, Taiwan Walker, Michael Lorenzen is there. So it's a very good team. Miami has a very up-and-coming team, and I think it's going to be good games, but I do think it's going to be an easy sweep for Philly. The bats are just there, and Miami, apart from, they do have some good bats in Zach Berger and Josh Bell and Jazz Chisholm and Jorge Soler, De La Cruz, Jesus Sanchez. It's going to be a good series, or 2 good games, but I just think that Philadelphia is they're more experienced, they're more veteran based, and I think that's what's going to push them over the edge. So then we would go with LA, who are the 2 seed, against Brewers, that are the 3 seed. It's a very interesting case. I do think that the Brewers, they're going to be a tough team, because you're going to see Corbin Burnes twice, or Brandon Woodruff twice, or Freddie Peralta twice. So I really think that's dangerous. And for the LA, I didn't watch much of them this year, if I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I have that series going in 4 to LA. I just think that LA are a step ahead, and Mookie Betts, playoff GOAT. Freddie Freeman, playoff GOAT. Clayton Kershaw, he's not always the best, but I feel like this could be maybe the final year of Clayton Kershaw. We're not sure if they win it. It probably is. So I think this team is just built to make a deep run. But yeah, I'm gonna go with LA in 5, with the MVP of that series being. I'm gonna go with the player of that series being JD Martinez. I just think he's a very good veteran player that's really good against good pitching, like most players on that team. So I think he's really going to be a solid player in that series. Now we're moving on to LA versus Philadelphia. Kind of a rematch. Not kind of. A rematch from last year. Philadelphia did eliminate Atlanta in 3 games or 4 games last year. I do not remember, but I remember the upset. This is going to be a series that is going to be must watch. If it's not the best series, it's for damn sure going to be up there for one of the best. It's a league matchup in NL East Juggernaut Showcase. And so I think this is going to go in 5. And I think the player of the series is going to be Ronald Acuna. I think he's going to keep that momentum he had during the season and just keep blasting. But yes, in 5, I do think Atlanta is going to get payback on last year. But again, another great series. So I know it's a very boring NL bracket, but the AL one's going to be more interesting with having LA and Atlanta. But I think those are the 2 best teams in the AL, and I do not see a team that is close in the NL. I'm sorry. I don't think there's a team that is nowhere close to those 2 teams. But in a 7-game series that it could go to, can't see a world where Atlanta doesn't make it to the World Series this year. They kind of learned from last year, kind of losing to Philadelphia. I don't think they're going to take any game lightly. I think they're going to be in everything. They're going to be ready for the playoffs this year. I think it's going to go in 6. I think Atlanta's going to get it done in 6, winning 4 out of 6, obviously. With the MVP being Spencer Strider, I think he's going to pitch twice in this series, and he's going to dominate LA. That's my opinion. Big strikeout numbers and strikeouts, they help a lot in the playoffs. They're super important. Now we're going to move on to the AL. We're going to start off with Texas versus Tampa Bay. The 5th seed Texas versus the 4th seed Tampa Bay. Texas, who had the division lead, and they lost it yesterday on the final day of the series, losing to Seattle, and Houston beating Arizona. So I do see Texas moving on. I just think that Texas, in a 3-game series, their pitching is going to be better. I think they're going to have something to prove. And I just think their lineup is better. I think Tampa Bay, they're not lucky with what's happened, losing their star shortstop. Ozzy Sirius down with an injury. Randy Arozarena is not 100%. Manuel Margot is not 100%. Jose Siri, you don't know if you're going to get him for the playoffs. I just think that's going to play a role. You don't have your stars. But this is also a team that, even when they don't have their stars, they win. So we'll see. But I think this is going to be a 3-game series. But I do think Texas is going to come up on top with their MVP of this series being Jonah Heim. I just think Jonah Heim's an absolute stud catcher. He's as good defensively as he is offensively, and I think he's going to play a big role in this series. So they will move on to face the number 1 seed, Baltimore Orioles. Now we're moving on to the 6th seed, Toronto Blue Jays, my favorite team, versus the Minnesota Twins. I think Toronto's going to win it in 2. I'm sorry. Maybe it's bias. I could be biting my words as soon as Wednesday. But I do think that Toronto should win this series, and I think they should even be the favorites. The only thing they don't have is home field advantage. But I think the Minnesota Twins have this added factor of pressure with them being 0-18 in their last 18 games. So I do think Toronto is going to be able to get this in 2, and I think the player of the series is going to be Gausman. I think he's going to throw an absolute banger in Game 1, which will lead them to winning the series and facing Houston. Now moving on to Baltimore, Texas, Baltimore. So yeah, this is going to be a tough series, but I do think Texas is going to take it. I think Texas is going to take it in 5. I may be underappreciating Baltimore, probably, and they're probably going to shock me again this year, like they've done so many times this year so far. But I do think Texas is going to take it, and I think that it's going to be because of Adolis Garcia being the MVP of this round. I just think he's a great player, and I think he's going to be a stud in this round. So they're going to move on to the ALCS. Now moving on to Toronto versus Houston. This is going to be an interesting series. I do think that Houston's going to end up winning it. As much as I want Toronto to go all the way, I just can't see them getting past Houston, this playoff dynasty. So yeah, I do think that they're winning in 6 though, so I do think it's going to be a good series, but I don't see Toronto. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I do. It doesn't go to 6. It's only 5 games. It's a 5-game series. I'm so sorry. No, I think this one's gonna go to. It's gonna go in 4. I'm so sorry. I just think that Houston's too good. But I think the MVP of the round is gonna be Kyle Tucker. Now moving on to the ALCS, I have the Houston Astros versus the Texas Rangers. Battle of Texas, baby. This is gonna be an absolutely incredible series. It's going to be so much fun to watch. I'm really high on the Texas Rangers. I just think that they have they have a good veteran core, and they have a good young core. I think Evan Carter is going to be huge in this series. So I just wanted to shout him out. But I think that the MVP of the series is going to be Marcus Semien that's going to lead his team to a six-game series win. And yeah, I just think Marcus Semien is going to win that MVP. You saw what he did the ALCS MVP. You saw what he did in the series earlier where he was just on fire. I think Semien defensively on the bases, he's just such a good player. So I do see him leading his team in that ALCS and leading his team to the World Series. So moving on to the World Series, I have the Atlanta Braves versus the Texas Rangers. This is going to be an absolute banger if it does happen. I think it's two very good teams. You got a team that's up and coming a little bit still in Texas Rangers, and you have a team that they're full in their dynasty right now in the Atlanta Braves. So I'm going with a bold prediction. I think the Texas Rangers will end up winning the World Series in 7 games with their MVP with the MVP of the series being, again, Marcus Semien. I just think this series is going to be so good. But I just think the Texas Rangers, I don't know why, I just think that this club is special. And I know they're in the wild card spot. They were a game away from having a bye in the first round. So I don't think you can knock them off. So if this is a team that does get in their groove, I could easily see them making the playoffs, or I could see them having a deep run. And that's why I take them to win the World Series. So thank you guys. Tell me what your predictions are in the comments. Thank you for all the support recently. And I'll keep you in touch with any big news that happens in the next few days. I love you all, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.